reporting from Ramallah there. So, Marwan, this ties in with a question I wanted to ask you off the back of what you said last hour, that Palestinians and Israelis after this war, they're going to have to learn, or they're going to have to figure out a way to either marry, I assume you meant live together, or a happy divorce. Do you think that there could be, despite all this suffering, or perhaps on account of all this suffering, a silver lining in this crisis, meaning the crisis is so big, something has to change, and that something could be a Palestinian state?
Well, this is the thing, right? I mean, there are two possible solutions to the conflict, to the colonialism. One is a one-state solution, that's what they call it, meaning Palestinians and Israelis, Jews, Arabs, Jews, Christians, and Muslims living in one country where citizenship counts, not ethnicity or nationalism. That's a bit farther away today after 100 days of massacre. The two-state solution is when you separate them along the lines of 1967 borders, the so-called green line. And that's also becoming problematic because there are some 700,000 illegal Israeli settlers in occupied Palestinian land. And after October 7, that's also becoming a bit less probable. Now, some of our viewers listening to us in the earlier hours seem to be drawing some hope from, say, France and Germany. Look at what they were in Second World War, and look what they are now.
That's kind of where the question comes from. Out of crisis can be born a positive political solution.
But without magical thinking.
Meaning?
Because France and Germany today live together. In fact, Europe now lives in a union because fascism was defeated. Israeli fascism is not being defeated in Israel today. I mean, that's where the might is. Hamas, like it or hate it, call it terrorist or call it liberation organization, resistance movements or killers, whatever way you want to call them, they are resisting their occupiers. They were born out of occupation in the 1980s, and they've been resisting that occupation since then. Until the occupation ends and the fascist mindset behind it, there is no clear way towards, living nicely side by side. Because at the roots of this problem, and it really depends how you want to look at it, but the way I see it, analytically speaking, looking at the history, at the roots of the problem lies a certain racist mindset that says, I am privileged, and those who I occupy, those who I took their land, will remain to have no privilege that I do. Look at just the reports that we've been doing just today, about 100 days, right? Look how preoccupied we are with the 150 families, 130 plus families, Israeli families, because their loved ones are held in captivity in Gaza. In the same 100 days, we've had several thousand Palestinians were taken captives, prisoners, by Israel, just like that, within 100 days. No trials that we know about, no judgment, no accusation list, nothing. They were just taken about, scooped up from their homes. Have we covered their families and how they feel about their loved ones being now in Israeli jails, open-endedly held captives? No, we don't. Do they demonstrate in Ramallah and Nablus and Hebron the way Israeli families are demonstrating in Tel Aviv? No. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they're used to it. They're used to it. Some million Palestinians, 1 million Palestinians have already passed through Israeli jails. 1 million Palestinians have already been arrested at one point or another since 1967. It's a way of life for the Palestinians to be held captives by Israel. And Gaza is a culmination of decades-long treatment of this nature, where Israel felt with such impunity it can do whatever the hell it wants with the Palestinians, because it's protected by the United States and its Western allies. And that's why, I'm sure I'm looking at you and I'm thinking about the next question, why couldn't they stop this war? Because
so many people, so many of our viewers have asked that question, right? The scale of the killing is such, the intensity of the killing is such, why isn't the world doing something about it? It's a little bit naive because it's not how power politics works, but everybody's asking the question.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is probably one of the most indispensable 2 or 3 questions we can keep trying to answer. I think some of it is straightforward, right? as soon as this thing started on October 7th, we've heard that America was dispatching its aircraft carriers to the East Mediterranean. And it started arming Israel more, committing $14 billion to Israel, and promising that it will stand behind Israel no matter what, under whatever conditions, until it defeats Hamas, which we understood over the last 100 days, which means the destruction of Gaza. As long as the United States, the world superpower, along with its Western allies, decide that they're going to be backing Israel, even if they're going to have to involve NATO in the process, no other country, whether it's in the region or outside the region, is going to dare come in and do anything. But also, even those countries who are close in the region are not interested to get involved in another war with Israel and the United States. Even Iran is not interested in another war with Israel and the United States. Some of them don't even like Hamas and its brand of Islamism. Some of them sit on even greater human rights violations than what Israel did in Gaza. I mean, look at what happened in Syria, for God's sake. Look at what happened in other places in the region. I mean, we've had crises in the region that are just as comparable as what we're seeing in Palestine. So a lot of these leaders are not just not united. Some of them are also gross violators of human rights, right? So all to say that politics is, as you say, it's very complicated, and there is no fanciful way, there is no fantasy land in this Middle East, as long as colonialism is at the center of it, and as long as it's backed by Western imperial powers. This is the sad reality. As long as, until and unless they change, and I think these sorts of shocks, as horrible as they are, as inhumane or as much pain as they could cause, right? They try to somehow shock the system, right? Is that what they call them? I'm not sure.
Yeah, is this back to the silver lining idea a little bit?
But the thing is, right, I mean, I can see certain of it that I'm not sure the Israelis will see it as a silver lining. But if you were a Palestinian, right, and you see the destruction in Gaza, then you say that Gaza is being basically decimated. And Hamas, eventually, when the debate starts and the war ends, probably people are going to start holding it accountable. Wait a minute, why did you do that? How did you do that? Did you know that something like this is going to happen to us? Is this the right thing to do? Was this the right thing to do? I'm sure the same thing in Israel. They will be asking the questions. Wait a minute, why were you not pursuing peace? Because we ended up in this war. Without peace, we're going to always be facing war in this region. Why aren't you, our government, pursuing peace as you should? And so on and so forth. And then there is a bit of a silver lining for the Palestinians who are losing their homes, who are losing their livelihoods, who are losing their loved ones. Israel has been building this fanciful, fantastic brand for itself around the world the past 30 years, since Oslo. And Netanyahu has been, he's a PR machine. He's been very good at improving Israel's image around the world. It's not just a colonial, it's not just occupation, it's the startup nation, it's wonderful, it's innovative, it's great, human rights, democracy, and so on and so forth. The past 100 days destroyed the Hollywoodian image of Israel. I think it's not going to recover from it for a long time to come. When you hear their lawyers at the Hague a couple of days ago saying something like, we are trying to save Palestinian lives, we're not trying to kill Palestinians, people around the world, even the dumbest of dumb, will look at them and go like, come on, we've buried it together. This is not the way you save lives. This is the way you carry out a genocide against the Palestinian people. So I think the image problem here for Israel is going to be so grave in the international public opinion that I think even its allies are going to start being more careful dealing with it. And I hope that that will be a way for some change within Israel, some reckoning in Israel, that we cannot continue to be a state at war 75 years after our independence. Something gotta give.
Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, here in Qatar,